Hey, Shalom, Makim, Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachakwadash. Excuse me, I would like to give double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that's still teaching this truth. And as always, much peace, love, and salutation to the elect, beginning with the 144,000, all the way down to the large multitude that believes and who the Lord will deliver in these last days. To you all I say Shalom. I'm the brother Tazamah from the Great Millstone Dallas camp, coming back today with another lesson. And I pray this lesson will be edifying and to the point. And I wanted to do some sort of a response video to the lesson that you see here on the screen by Elder Apostle Gabar entitled YouTube Celebrity Israelites Panting and Sniffing After Other Platforms. Learn from this. All right, let's read that again. YouTube Celebrity Israelites Panting and Sniffing After Other Platforms. Learn from this. All right, and beginning with our apostles on down, it's been told time and time again that we are not to be, going to these other individuals' platforms who, don't even believe in the same thing as you. The scriptures tell you, it says, matter of fact, let me get it real quick. The scripture says, be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. What's that, 2 Corinthians 6, if I'm not mistaken? 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14. All right, it's 2 Corinthians 6 and 14. It says, be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? You see that? It says, and what communion hath light with darkness? Okay, so one prime example that comes to mind are, Israelites who will go to Sonetter's platform, the so-called black consciousness, which are really unconscious, they're really dead. Why the hell would you go to the so-called black consciousness platform to debate the Bible with a bunch of individuals who don't even believe in the same thing as you? Because ultimately, going back to the basis of this lesson that you see here on the screen that was done by the apostle, a lot of these Israelites, they yearn for attention. They yearn for attention. They yearn for notoriety. They yearn for clout. Because in the world, either A, they were known as being that man in the world, whether it was by financial gain or by carnal gains, whatever the case may be, and they want that same notoriety in the truth, which, when you come into the truth, when Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai brings you, I'd rather say to the knowledge, because you don't come into the truth. All right, Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai brings the truth to you. As the scripture says, that ye have not chosen me, but I have chosen you. All right. When you come into this truth, man, it's really the exact opposite. Everything that you did before and the person that you was before coming into the knowledge, all right, that person has to be completely dead. That person has to be gone. You have to become a new creature in Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. So a lot of guys, when they come in, they keep that same old man attached to them. And they want that cult of personality. They want that fame. They want that notoriety. They want that clout. They want that prestige. And that's not the right way to go. And most individuals, all individuals who come in that way, looking for gain, looking for popularity, end up losing. They end up falling out, or they end up being exposed. You see what happened to Alazar, the former head of Sakari. You see what happened to him. He let his head get too big and too prideful, to the point whereas all his dirty little secrets, all right, came oozing out. And the scriptures talk about that. The scriptures talks about how, let me get this real quick in Sirach. Let's see. 1 second here. Let's go here. All right, yeah. Let's get this in Sirach 1 real quick. All right. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 1, verse 29. All right, it reads, it says, be not an hypocrite in the sight of men, and take good heed what thou speakest. And that's another thing. You just have Israelites that are out here just saying any damn thing, man. John the Baptist fell out the truth, and he wasn't, he didn't follow Yahweh Shai, so he was the only prophet. Here it is, they're saying he was the only prophet that wasn't in the truth. You see, because he questioned Yahweh Shai. You see? So if that's the case, like Elder Apostle Tahar did the lesson, you know, so I guess the rest of the 12 disciples, you know, they wasn't in the truth, because Yahweh Shai upbraided, the scriptures tell you how Yahweh Shai upbraided them for their unbelief. When you read that in the book of Mark, it literally says that he upbraided them for the unbelief. You see? So was Thomas in the truth? Was Thomas not in the truth because he questioned Yahweh Shai appearing? And he was like, look, unless I put my hands in the holes where he was, where you know, unless I put my fingers in the holes of his hands where he was pierced, then I'm not going to believe. You know, Peter denied Yahweh Shai 3 times. You know, the rest of the disciples, they fled whenever Yahweh Shai was persecuted, as the prophecy says. So I guess they wasn't in the truth. I guess they were cowards. You know, people just say any damn thing, man, and they have no fear of the repercussions behind, you know, behind with the things that they say. Like the scripture says, every idle word that a man shall speak, he shall give account thereof in the day of judgment, man. John the Baptist fell out the truth, and if John the Baptist, you know, what the hell was ISUPK saying? If John the Baptist is a man of the Lord, then pass the hot sauce or some shit like that, some madness. Okay, so once again it says, be not a hypocrite in the sight of men, and take good heed what thou speakest. It says, exalt not thyself. You see, and that's one of the main things that Jake does, is what? They exalt themselves, man. Instead of exalting Yahweh Shai, they exalt themselves. Instead of preaching Yahweh Shai, they preach about themselves. What they got going on, what they doing, you know, this platform that they doing this debate on, and where they're doing debates over here, they doing this debate, they got this going on, they got that going on. Right? So it says, exalt not thyself, lest thou fall and bring dishonor upon thy soul. You see that? And so the Most High discover thy secrets and cast thee down in the midst of the congregation, because thou camest not in truth to the fear of the Lord, but thy heart is full of deceit. And that's many Israelites' problem, is that their minds, you know, their hearts is full of wanting just a base game, man. Money. That's what it's all. That's what it's all really about. It's just a money grab with these Israelites, man. You see, that's why they're able to travel and go here and go there and have these T-shirts and do this and do that. You know, because it's all about dishonest gain at the end of the day, man, which is completely wicked. Okay, so going on these different platforms and debating with a Christian and debating with an agnostic and an atheist here and somebody that believes in, you know, the so-called Muslim faith, you know, the NOI, the Nation of Islam. You know, why go on these platforms and debate? Because it's really not about the truth. It's not about the truth. Oh, well, you know, we debate because at the end of the day, man, you know, anybody could hear, and, you know, they could hear and they could be converted. Well, Yahweh Shah said, just go out and preach the word. Okay? Go out there and preach the word, and Yahweh Bashim Shah is going to bring in those who he wants to bring in. Remember, the scripture says, whether they hear, whether they forbear, preach the word, man. The word is like, you know, the scripture says, prophesy unto the wind. Okay, the words of Yahweh Bashim Shai, as the scripture says, man, the words of Yahweh Bashim Shai do not go out void. Okay, they don't go out with none effect. So it doesn't matter if you're on YouTube and you're preaching and you get 2 views on your video, man, 3 views, and we know that YouTube suppresses our videos also too, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, those 2 to 3 views, quote unquote, are 2 to 3 individuals who, you know, one of them could be new. It could be somebody's first time hearing that, and the angels rejoice over one sinner that repents, man. This is Matthew 23, verse 11. It says, But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant. So even if you want to have that lofty position of being great, being in that lofty position, the high position, requires you to be the greatest servant. Let's get that word servant real quick here. That word servant is diakonos. All right, diakonos. And it says, It says, one who executes the commands of another, especially of a master. It says a servant, attendant, minister. You see, those that attend, and Yahweh Shai himself, you know, he showed the greatest form of humility. He showed the greatest form of being a servant. He washed the disciples' feet, man. You know, he took on the cross. You know, he completely humbled himself and took on the form of a servant for many. And the scripture says, let this mind be in you, which also was in Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, man. Who, you know, he's the what's the word I'm looking for? He's the prototype that we should be aiming after. Okay? Verse 12, it says, and whomsoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, brought low. That word abased means to be brought down, right? And whomsoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that humble himself shall be exalted. That's when you're going to be exalted. And who the fuck cares about being the man on this side and being exalted on this side? You know, in this decrepit ass world, and this decrepit ass society that we live in. Who the hell cares, man? You see? It's not made for us to win on this side. You know? It's not made for us to win. It's not made for us to have that notoriety on this side, man. Now, the scriptures does say that, you know, the Lord will grant unto us, you know, he will grant unto us fame in the lands where we will put to shame. You know, but that's going to be, you know, even later. You know, but ultimately what's going to grant that fame is the gospel being preached, man. Because the same dude, you know, Saint and Sinner podcast, the same dude that, I'm going to go back so y'all can see. Because, you know, Elder Apostle Gabar was responding to a video that was done by Elder Apostle Tahar entitled, Give Not That Which Is Holy Unto the Dogs, which, you know, when you watch this video, this dude on the screen, he was completely shitting on he was completely shitting on the Israelites, man. But it's the same guy that had Captain Tazariak on the panel and, you know, saying, yeah, you know, what did he say? You know, I want to have, I'm trying to have an event for black. What did he say? He said, I'm trying to have an event for, matter of fact, let me see if I can actually find it real quick. Give me 1 second. All right, so I was able to find what I was referring to, just so I'm not putting words on nobody's mouths and y'all can see for yourselves. This dude right here, you know, Saint Center podcast is he's a complete demon and a complete snake, man. You know, but at the end of the day, you can't be surprised that, you know, you can't really be surprised at what he said. Now listen to what this guy says.
Because I'm at a hotel. Yeah, because we're doing some work down here. So we teach globally. You know, we stretch as far as the UK and stuff like that. So we teach like that.
You know, I am having an event, which I'll have to tap in with you on the dates, and I would like you all to be represented. It is, I believe, like the end of the month before Black History Month. So I guess end of January.
So mind you, this was done a while ago, because you mentioned at the end of the month before so-called Black History Month, which we know Black History Month, so-called, is in February, right? So let's take a listen.
January, that would be.
Okay.
And it's essentially an event circled around the resurgence of the Black people, particularly those in America. And I want all of the real players who are actually doing work and have organization to come there. So I got a plantation in southern Georgia. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would definitely do that. I think sometimes when
you see that, so he came as a snake, man. He's like, you know, I would definitely love for you guys to be. I would love for you to be there, and it's for quote unquote Black people, blah 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 blah. And you know, we're not Black. You know, but at the end of the day, you know, somebody, you know, like Captain Tazariak, he would accept that invitation. You know, because ultimately it's putting his name out there. It's not about Yahweh Bashem El Shai. It's about putting your name out there and putting your platform out there. You see, we're supposed to look like fools in this world, man. We're supposed to be looked at as being fools and looked at as being the offscouring of the earth. You know, that's how the Apostle Paul was looked at. You know, that's how the you know, beginning with Yahweh Shai. That's how his followers was looked at as complete filth. You know, our job is just to teach the truth, whether they hear, whether they forbear, man. You know, we ain't out here for the unity. We're not out here for the unity of black people. We're not out here for the unity of Mexicans. We're not out here for the unity of Indians. I could give a fuck about a black person. I could give a fuck about a Mexican. I could give a fuck about an Indian. Point blank, period. Now, when it comes down to an Hebrew Israelite of the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, you know, Levi, Ephraim, you know, Manasseh, so on and so forth, Issachar, so on and so forth, then absolutely, especially only if they're teaching the correct doctrine. You know, only if they're teaching the right way. But a black person, a Native American person, and a Mexican, you know, or a Latino, I could give two shits about that. Why should you care? You know? What did Yahushua say? Yahushua said in Matthew 13, he said what? Matthew 13 and Matthew 12. That's what it is, not 13. Matthew 12 and verse 48. It says, but he answered and said unto them, unto him that told him, who is my mother and who are my brethren? And he stretched forth his hands toward his disciples and said, behold, my mother and my brethren. You see that? So your mother and your brothers, your family, are what? Verse 50. For whosoever shall do the will of my Father which is in heaven, the same is my brother and sister and mother. That's who your family is, man. Those who do the will of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, man. So what benefit would it be to gather together with a bunch of unbelievers as we did the lesson, right? Be ye not unequally yoked together with the unbelievers, man. You see, but going on these platforms and being all buddy and kikiing, you know, as you like to say, you know, you over here kikiing with the enemy. Don't be surprised whenever you get, you know, don't be surprised whenever you get burnt if you touch the frying pan. You know, as the scripture says, whoso toucheth tar shall be defiled with it, man. You see? But once again, it goes back to these individuals wanting to create a cult of personality for themselves. You know, wanting to create, I rather say, a name for themselves. You know, that's what it all boils down to at the end of the day. All right. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 27, 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 27. It says, but the Most High hath chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. You see, so this knowledge is supposed to be, you know, foolish. It's supposed to look foolish in the eyes of the everyday individual, especially these bonehead, big head ass Christians out here that have no clue what the hell, you know, no clue of what the Bible is actually talking about. You know, why be yoked together with an individual that doesn't believe the same thing as you? Oh yeah, for sure, but yeah, for sure, man. You know, I respect you, man. We on the same platform, man. You know, brother, I'll come on your platform and you know, hey, yeah, it was like, yeah, I'll debate, but yeah, it's all good. At the end of the day, man, you my brother. No, man. But the Most High have chosen the foolish things of this world to confound the wise, and the Most High have chosen the weak things of the world to confound things which are mighty. Which is what? Going into us, the lowly, you know, babes, if you will. Verse 28, it says, and base things of the world. It says, and base things of the world and things which are despised hath the Most High chosen. You see that? Yea, and things which are not, right? And who are and what's not. It's talking about us, right? To bring to nothing things that are, right? That no flesh should glory in his presence. That's the key. Let's read that in the NLT. As a result, no one can ever boast in the presence of the Most High. There's nothing to boast about, man. Remember, the scripture says that the Lord hath given us this treasure in earthen vessels. You know, so that the glory of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai it's not going to be in man, but it's going to be in the Most High. Right? This is Galatians 6:3. It says, for if a man think himself to be something when he is nothing, right, he deceiveth himself. So all these grandiose titles and these names and these, credentials that you have and all this other kind of madness, man. Who the hell cares? At the end of the day, who gives a, like I said, like Goldberg said at the end of The Longest Yard with Adam Sandler in it at the very end. That's gonna be 2 weeks in the hole. Oh, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit, man? Who cares? See, our focus, what does the scripture say? I would know nothing of you except Yahweh Shai HaMashiach crucified. That's what the Apostle Paul said. You see? So, like I said, I just want to do a response video to the Apostle Elder Gabar's lesson that he did. I pray this lesson was edifying to the elect of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. And once again, I would like to give all praise, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, B'Shem HaKodash. I would like to give double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders, a great millstone that taught us his truth, and that's what teaching his truth. And much peace, love, and salutation to the elect. Until next time, Lord willing, I say shalom.